Hi everyone, my name is Gat, but you can also call me Gatsby. And I think animation is neat. There's a lot of animation out there from all over the world, and one of those places just so happens to be Japan. So it's no big shocker to anyone that I, like millions of other people out there in the world, find myself enjoying anime. I am, though, what many would consider a casual anime fan. I have watched a fair amount of shows, over my life, but I think most of it is what is considered by Western audiences to be the kind of basic entry-level stuff. Think your Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhoods or your Cowboy Bebops. Maybe sprinkle in some lesser-known stuff like Princess Tutu or Odd Taxi. So late last year, I started to watch this anime called I'm in Love with the Villainess, and my casual enjoyment of the show slowly turned into a morbid curiosity as certain events and details were revealed about the show's characters that left me feeling a little more than just disturbed and disappointed in the choices that were made in this show's story. And in this video, I want to talk about what happened in the show and why it made me feel this way. I want to say real quick, though, before I get into the real meat of the video, is that considering the fact that the YouTube algorithm seems to favor content that contains negative criticism on things, I have this sinking feeling that this video might reach out of my usual audience. So I just want to go ahead and say this video is pure 100% my opinion. One might even want to classify this video as just my insane ramblings. So if you watch this video and you find yourself disagreeing with me and what I have to say, I'm 100% okay with that. If this video causes any debate or, discussion in the comments, just be civil with one another. That's all I ask. So yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get to the main topic of today's video on why I'm in Love with the Villainess left me feeling like a hollow shell of a person. Yippee. Oh. So, my interest in the anime all started when I stumbled across the trailer for the show. I want to say sometime of October, maybe before that, of last year in my YouTube suggestions. I clicked on the video on a whim and watched the trailer, and I found myself being interested in the show. I'm in Love with the Villainess is a romantic comedy story about a young woman who gets isekai'd to a fantasy school dating game she played all the time as an escape from the harsh realities of the modern day. But when she becomes the female lead of the game, this talented magic user who got into this prestigious magic academy on a scholarship named Ray Taylor, she finds herself not romantically interested in any of the romanceable princes from the game, but in the game's antagonist, this snooty, uppity, fancy girl named Claire Francois. Sure, the isekai background, some might say it's a little overdone, and I could tell just from watching the trailer, this anime wasn't going to be a cinematic masterpiece, but it looked like a fun romp. And combine that with three things I'm a sucker for. One, it's a romance. Two, the dynamics of a popular high society kind of snooty character and the not so popular underdog character. And third, it's gay. Both of the romantic leads are girls. And I was like, yeah, this seems really cool. I want to watch this. I want to give this a try. This seems like it's interesting. It'll at least be a fun little romp. So I wait for the show to come out and I watch a few episodes. I think 3 episodes were out at the time when I first watched it. And it was exactly what I expected it to be. Just a fun little romantic comedy, nothing too deep about it. But there was this scene towards the end of the 3rd episode that really gave me a pleasant surprise watching it. Basically, what happens in this scene is that there's a really nice conversation where we have the 2 main leads, Ray and Claire, and then 2 other characters, Ray's best friend Misha, and then Claire's maid, also a friend to, the other three girls. Lynn? I think that's how you pronounce her name. I'm not sure. Whatever. And Misha asked, "Hey Ray, are you like gay? Like, are you for real? Like, are you actually gay?" And Ray is like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am. I've never felt any attraction to a guy." And Claire's just like, "Uh-oh, I sense I'm in danger." And then Misha's like, "Hey, that's not cool, Claire. That's kind of bigoted. Just because someone's gay doesn't mean you have to be weary of them. Regardless of what gender you are attracted to, there's going to be a preference within that group." And, the maid, Lynn, is like, "Yeah, it's just so happens that the person, Ray has fallen in love with just happens to be a woman. Love is blind, all of that." And then Ray is like, "Lynn, you have a point there. It is logical. But in my case, gender does matter because I know for a fact that I could never fall in love with a man. Good for her. She's a lesbian. For real, for real." So, it's a simple and concise, maybe a bit basic by some people's standards, but I thought it was a really cool conversation to see in an anime. So at that point, I was all caught up with the episodes. I left the show on a high note. I went off to do different things with my life until several weeks later passed, and I went, "Oh yeah, I'm in love with the Villainess" is a show that I was watching and I enjoyed. Oh look, all the episodes are out, the whole season's out, let me just catch up with it. I would later come to regret this decision. So, I start watching the show again, and I'm having a good time with it, and a couple more characters, plot elements are introduced. One of them being Lambert, who is the older brother of Claire's maid, Lynn. It's around this point of the anime that this kind of like political thriller arc is going on. Tensions are rising between the nobility class of students and the common class, like the regular common people who are on scholarships at this school. And things get even more tense when a noble student gets into an argument with a commoner student, and like the noble student shoots the commoner student with like a magic fireball from his wand, and then like the commoner student gets severely injured, like almost dies or something. And then the noble student, 1 week's worth of like house arrest is punishment for this. And all the while, he's insisting, "I didn't mean to do that. I don't know what happened. I just pointed my, wand at him to get him to back down and shut up. I don't know how that fireball set off. I did not intend for this to happen." So, combined with the fact that tensions between the noble and common class, seem to be on the rocks in this world. And, the people were understandably mad that this guy only got 1 week's worth of house arrest. A lot of protests break out outside the school among the commoners. They want justice to be served. Understandable. And during the night, a mob of them breaks into the school with the help of some mystery masked man. And apparently this mystery masked man, he's evil, and he's behind trying to cause uprise, distress between the noble and common class within the country, potentially trying to weaken the country political or something. So while all this is happening, Ray leaves Claire and Lynn to confront who is actually responsible for the near fatal injury of the commoner, person who's kind of responsible for starting the ball rolling on this whole entire mess. That plot twist being Lambert. So, I didn't say this earlier, so I'm going to say it now. It's that revealed, stated on in the show that Lynn and Lambert, they're a part of this powerful merchant family. I think they're called I cannot say their name. I am so sorry. The RUECA or something. And they're in control of the world. They're control of the distribution of the country's magic gem supply, and the magic gems are what cause people to do magic in this world. So they're very powerful, very wealthy, but they're only like merchants. They aren't the noble, they're not part of the noble class. And we can see that, they're not considered, like necessarily nobility because, Lynn, she's a maid, to someone who's a noble. So, and Lambert, his thing is that he's like a magic inventor guy. So the thing is, the plot point is that he tampered with the noble student's wand, so it would shoot a strong fireball out at the commoner, and the noble guy would get framed, and then would cause all this uproar and distress. And then the question comes up after this reveal is why would Lambert do this? Is it because his house only being like a merchant family, only being like these wealthy merchants, despite all having all this money and wealth, they don't really have power, and he feels like he and maybe people of his level, commoners, they're not being treated right by the system. And that would make sense. I mean, we've seen cases in history where a lot of times it's often, the merchant class, these wealthy merchant classes who, after gaining power and wealth, see that they're not being treated the same as nobles, and they, rise up and gain more power. That would make sense.
Editing Gatsby here. I realized the claim I made here wasn't based on any evidence, so I went to research my claim on the merchant class wanting more power due to poor treatment from nobility, and I couldn't find any evidence of this. I believe I had condensed the merchant class's rise to power during the Middle Ages and Renaissance as one event, as well as me misremembering the events that led up to the creation of the Magna Carta. I am a fool and I take the L on this. I also apologize for any misinformation I might have spread just then. Anyways, back to the video.
But it's not that. So apparently, the evil masked mystery man, he was holding Lambert's lover as a hostage and is blackmailing him and his lover. Like, if they don't help him out, he's gonna reveal like their secret relationship or something, or like kill them. And if they do help him out and everything works out, then he and his lover can go leave the country and be together forever, all hunky-dory. Okay, so yeah, that can work too. That makes sense. So, is his lover, someone from the noble class? Maybe a guy, maybe both. And that could be interesting because, in this world, in this story, it's been established that in this country, that being gay, being in a same gender relationship, that's still taboo. And same thing with interclass relationships. That's considered a no-go, not cool at all. And so if Lambert was in a relationship with someone outside of his class, or the same gender, or both, that could be a very interesting parallel to Ray and Claire's relationship, because Ray is lower class, Claire is nobility, and, there's the same gender, they're gay. So it'd be, interesting kind of parallel to see someone who is desperate to have, that happy ending, for them and their lover, and how that would, contrast to Ray and Claire's, relationship, whatever, in the story. But no, it's not that. So as Ray, is confronting Lambert, she steps closer to him and says this, I kid you not. She says, "Homosexuality isn't the only type of forbidden love. You and Lynn are blood siblings as well as..." And then she gets cut off because Lynn is right behind her, and she's holding Claire at knife point, begging her not to get in her brother's way, because, plot twist, it turns out they aren't just siblings, they were lovers too. That's right. Surprise, surprise. Lynn and Lambert were getting Alabama shenanigans going on in the show, and there wasn't really any strong foreshadowing to that. Or at least in my opinion, I don't think it was, so it felt just very out of the blue WTF. The only real, I guess, quote unquote hints I can think of is there's this one scene where Lynn and Ray are talking to each other, and Lynn is like, yeah, my brother's really cool, and I think he's great, and I admire him. What a great guy. And then, like, at another point, Lynn is talking to Ray. It's like, well, everybody has their secrets. And I don't know. Maybe I'm the weird one, but I don't see how those two events would necessarily, like, equate to Lynn is fucking her brother. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. And what made me feel like I was going really bonkers is that, this is revealed, and then it's never really, like, addressed. So this is, like, the very end of episode 8, when the Lynn and Lambert situation is revealed. And I think if I remember correctly, that episode kind of ends on, like, a cliffhanger. And then episode 9 is Claire and Ray stopping the masked man and Lynn and Lambert's plans of social upheaval. And the masked man, he runs away into the night, doesn't get caught. We don't see him for the rest of the show. And Lynn and Lambert do get caught, and they get arrested, and they're going to get executed, as well as their whole family. Like, their whole entire family, they're going to get executed. And then the rest of the episode is Ray and Claire, they get summoned to the king's court because the king wants to reward them for their heroism. And Ray and Claire, they're able to convince the king that, hey, please don't kill Lynn and Lambert and their whole entire family. Can you please just exile them instead to another country? And it takes some convincing, but the king is like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll do it. And then we see Lynn and Lambert and their family, like, walk off to the horizon to, this other country. And Lynn and Lambert are, walking outside the carriages at the very end, right beside each other. And Ray and Claire, through, like, this fence protected by guards, they say their goodbye to Lynn. And, we just see them walk off into the horizon, never to be seen again in the show. And their relationship never brought up or addressed throughout the rest of the episodes. And at this point, I'm mortified. Like, the way they just handled this incest plot thread, I mean, surely they just won't, like, leave it sitting there, festering. Because you can't just drop something like that and not do anything with it, So there's a few more episodes left of the show, right? And I'm thinking to myself, surely, we'll get some confirmation, that Lynn and Lambert, they go to therapy or something. Because at this point, the way they address it, the line when Ray says, homosexuality isn't the only type of forbidden love, I feel like there is some implication in the narrative that incest is on the same level of being gay. Like, there's like it's the same thing. They're both types of, romantic love that get shunned by society unfairly, which I hate saying this in 2024, but that's bullshit. That is not the case. So I start watching the rest of the show. There's like 3 episodes left because it's like 12 episodes. And yeah, Lynn and Lambert, that whole entire thing is barely brought up again. The most we get is just like, wow, Miss Claire really misses Lynn because, they were really close and all, yeah, they're never brought up again. And in fact, something else just as bad, if not worse, happens in the show. So in the next episode, episode 10, we are introduced to a new character. I don't care to remember her name, and you will soon see why I don't care to remember her name. But just know that she's some exiled princess, whatever, from some other country, and she enrolls in the school. She's like better than Ray in a lot of ways. So how the magic system works in I'm in Love with the Villainess is that it's kind of like Avatar, but not really, as in Avatar The Last Airbender, not the blue Avatar people. So it's 4 elements. You got your fire, your earth, your water, and instead of air, it's wind. And most people can only use one of these elements, but on rare occasions, people can use more than one. For example, in the case of Ray, she is a dual caster. She can use water and earth. There is a teacher at the school who is a tri-caster. He can use earth, water, and fire. And this princess character, I'm just gonna call her Princess Lady or PL for the rest of the video. She's the goddamn fucking avatar because she can use all four, and she's really good, extremely talented in all of them. A lot of girls, swoon over her because she's so cool. Yeah, and the most damaging, or at least frustrating thing to Ray is that this princess character is childhood friends with Claire, and they're super close. So Claire, when she was like a little girl, her mother died pretty much right after they had an argument, and Claire was like, I hate you, Mom, you never hang out with me, you're always on business, I hate you. And her mom like dies in a carriage accident, like pretty much like right after that happens, and like Claire understandably feels extremely guilty for this, and for whatever plot reason, her dad sends Claire off to live with distant relatives for a period of time, and this is where she meets Princess Lady, who's also, a little kid at the time, and the PL, was there for Claire and comforted her during this time of grief and mourning, this very low point in her life. So yeah, that's super sweet, and and it's kind of interesting to see Ray be envious of someone having a relationship like this with Claire, having someone who could be there for her. Claire is at her low point, something Ray hasn't really been able to do. But wait a minute, the anime had to make it kind of weird and gross because Princess Lady and Claire are distant cousins, and like Princess Lady keeps like basically flirting with Claire, and Claire's kind of like, oh, you stop it. Oh, like at one point, like Princess Lady's like, well, what if I marry you when we get older, Claire? And Claire's like, oh wow, I'd actually kind of be into that. And it's weird. Sure, distant cousins isn't bad as two siblings, but it's just another case where I don't see why they have to be related. So there's a couple options here that I'm thinking in my brain. For one thing, we could have, Claire not be related to the other noble family she gets sent to live with for a period of time, right? Like, you don't have to be related to a family to, like, be sent there to live with someone. I mean, family friends exist, and I don't think it would break the viewer's suspension of belief or suspension of disbelief, or whatever it's called. I don't think that'd be broken by sending her to live with someone she's not related to for a period of time, and then, Princess Lady is a member of this family and they meet. Or they can kind of do the inverse, where Claire is still related to this noble family she gets sent to, but because Princess Lady is like this exiled bastard child of some king from another country, she gets sent to this noble family who she's not related to, but her whatever family is allied with, to hide her from political rivals. I feel like that could also make sense. But I try to soldier through. There's only 2 more episodes left, and I try to trudge on, because I can tell by watching it that I can see what they're trying to do here, right? Because even though Princess Lady is flirting with Claire, it is very clear to me, and to the viewers, I assume in general, that PL doesn't have any interest in Claire, romantically. She's interested in Ray and is trying to rile Ray up by flirting with Ray's crush or whatever. Classic love triangle shenanigans. But Ray is unaware of this, so at the last episode or whatever, they do like some duel where they have to like put these like objects of their affection on like some magic love scale, and whoever weighs more gets to, be with Claire. And, during this, when they're challenging each other to this, Ray confronts the Princess Lady, and she questions, PL, like, why are you doing this? Why are you like this? And, PL is like, well, I can tell you have half-baked emotions, and your relationship with Claire is just going to end with ruin. And you want to know why? Because I was just like you once. And we get her, and then she explains that in her past that PL had a massive crush on one of her maids. And she kept telling herself that, she didn't care if her maid was with anyone else but her. As long as the maid was happy, she'd be happy, because, it's what, when you love someone, what matters is their happiness, yada, yada, yada. But PL was like, well, one day those emotions, they just got so pushed down, and I got so angsty and it bubbled over, and then I sexually assaulted her. And then, because I ruined the relationship we had because I sexually assaulted her, she left my manor and I never saw her again. And then I decided that relationships are easier if they're only about sex and money, and romance was stupid, but I wasn't fulfilled. And I'm challenging you for Claire's hand so you don't end up like me. Or something like that. I don't know. At this point, I zoned out again. Because, I don't know. I felt like I was at a breaking point. I felt like crumbling to pieces. I felt like evaporating. Because I don't know about you sexually assaulting someone who doesn't recuperate your feelings isn't exactly normal. And what was really messed up about this is that we get a flashback. Like, we actually physically see Princess Lady do this to the maid. And I don't know, I feel like you have to be really careful when you're showing like sexual assault in film. And it's not like they like fetishize it or it's shot like in a fetishistic way. It just felt really wrong, because the only like real repercussions or really analyzation of this character being a sexual predator is that Princess Lady mentions, yes, I regret how I hurt her. And I just don't feel like that's enough. I feel like why have it in there if that's all you're going to talk about with it? I don't know. I didn't like it. It made me feel gross. Especially at the end of, the episode 12, the end, it is revealed, like I had assumed, that, Princess Lady wasn't really interested in Claire. She was interested in Ray and just wanted to, rile her up because she thought she looked cute when she was upset. And it's all good. Everybody's happy with each other, and the credits roll and the show is over. And we just have to sit with the fact that, everyone's just chilling with this character being a rapist. Okay. So, and it's just one of those cases where it's like the incest situation. Did that specific detail have to be there to get that point across? And I think, no, I don't think she had to be a rapist, because two ideas off the top of my head, if they wanted to get the point across that PL, this maid that she was close to out of, kind of jealousy or her having these romantic feelings to her that she can't express, option one, she could have like insulted her or yelled at her or something and been just like kind of really mean and nasty in that way. And then that would causes the maid to be like, I can't do this anymore. I don't like working for you. I'm off. I hate you. Away I go. Or they could have had a thing where it's like, and I feel like this might be the better option that makes more sense, because, there's this theme of like, oh, well, I'll be happy even if the person I love is not with me. And, Princess Lady is arguing, no, you need to fight for the person you love. You could have had, Princess Lady, like the maid introduces like her partner to Princess Lady, and then Princess Lady gets like really fucking angry and then just like decks the maid's partner or something. And then like that's what causes the maid to be like, PL, you're a jerk. I hate you. I'm leaving. Like, I feel like those could have been a lot more, like, you still get the point across without making a character a goddamn rapist. At least a character that I feel like we, the audience, are supposed to like somewhat or sympathize with, even if she's kind of plays an antagonistic role. And then I also just think back to episode 3, where they had this conversation, where they're talking about how being gay doesn't make you a perverted horn dog, and you shouldn't be afraid of someone hitting on you or having interest in you just because they're gay. And I just feel like these two things are kind of at odds with each other a little bit. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you're in an episode, you're saying, well, you shouldn't be afraid of gay people being rapists. I feel like you shouldn't make a gay character rapist in a later episode. And I'm not saying media can't explore topics like this. One of my favorite animes ever is Revolutionary Girl Utena. And that anime just so happens to cover topics like incest and sexual abuse, as well as having a romance with the two female leads. But in Revolutionary Girl Utena, those topics are discussed, they're addressed, they're analyzed. The repercussions are shown. Why someone would want to do this is explored and talked about. Power dynamics, that stuff is explored and talked about. I feel like in I'm in Love with the Villainess, it's just there. I don't feel like it has purpose, especially, with my ramblings you've heard me talk about. I feel like other decisions could have been made to get the same point across, talk about the same things. Like, I hate having to say this in the year 2024, but sexual abuse is bad. And personally, if you're writing a piece of media that explores those topics, you have to handle them carefully. You can't just slap it in there without making things weird and tacky for a lot of people. Because if you just put it in there without saying anything or making any points with it, we, the audience, are going to have to come to our own conclusions of what you're trying to say in the piece of media you're writing or thing you're writing, and may interpret things in your story that you may not have been intending. And who knows? Maybe I'm taking things in bad faith. Maybe I'm looking too deep into things. But in the case of Lynn and Lambert specifically, it reminds me of in Cardcaptor Sakura, where, I think they have good intentions, where, Clamp, they're trying to explore how love can come in different forms and whatnot. So, you have characters who are gay, whatever. But then they also have weird, not cool stuff, like student-teacher relationships happening and being a thing and being seen as oh, that can be wholesome and good if they really love each other, when they're not. And you know what, also, I'm gonna say it, I think Ray is a fucking weirdo. I think she insists upon herself, because throughout the show it feels like she has little to no respect for Claire's boundaries. You know how on the internet where a butch or really just any woman with muscles will exist, and then hundreds of people will go, "Step on me, mommy, spit on me, mommy, punish me, mommy." A lot of Ray's interactions with Claire feel like that to me. Ray is constantly pestering Claire and breaking her personal boundaries, her personal space, annoying her in a way Claire isn't okay with, and just overall making her uncomfortable and times frustrated. Going back to that scene in episode 3 where Misha is telling Claire not to be creeped out by Ray just because she's gay, and Claire is literally Misha says that oh, well, yeah, it's understandable that you're wary of Ray because of her actions and intent, but you shouldn't have this prejudice just because she's gay. And then Claire says that yeah, Ray, I act like this around you because you make me feel like I have to. And then this dynamic, I feel doesn't really change. I think Claire seems to get used to it more, but I feel Ray doesn't go under personal growth to that learns she actually cares and respects Claire's boundaries and whatnot. So it feels in some ways Ray gets rewarded at the end of the show when they get together, that she pesters this other person to be in relationship basically with her, and it's oh, they get together at the end, yippee-ki-yay. And that also just feels gross. In my mind, there's an alternative version of this story where Ray realizes how much she's putting Claire on this pedestal and making her uncomfortable, and realizes that her obsession with Claire may have been fine when Claire was just a fictional character, but now that Claire is a real person, that's not okay anymore. And Ray, apologized to Claire, and they go on their separate ways and live happy, healthy lives. And it's just so tiring. Representation. I think representation in stories is really cool. And I like it when stories reflect experiences I've been through and I can relate to. I just don't like my experiences as a queer person being put on the same level as sexually predatory behaviors like incest and rape. In this day and age where so many people want to group queerness and being a sexual predator as being the same thing. And I hate feeling this way about this anime because I know a lot of people out there seem to have really enjoyed the show and its characters. And I can't necessarily hate them for it. For Pete's sake, I'm a fan of One Piece. There is literally a canon relationship in the series where these two side characters, Scarlet and Kyros, they have a 10-year age gap, which isn't inherently bad, but it's really creepy when you find out that they met when Scarlet was 15, Kyros was 25, and they later on get married and have a kid together. And don't even get me started on Sanji and Brook and Oda's weird idea that sexual harassment makes a funny joke. You know, he without sin cast the first stone, or however it goes. I know for me, I probably won't engage with I'm in love with the villainess ever again. I'll try my best not to think about it ever at all after, this video uploads, after publishing this video. But I know a lot of other people out there will still, hold it in high regards as a piece of media that is near and dear to their heart. And I can ignore and gripe at Oda's weird ass writing decisions for One Piece, but someone else, they might see those same things and be like, ew, One Piece, that is disgusting. I hate that. I can't believe anybody would watch that. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. No media is morally perfect. But when are those transgressions something we can... I hate that the story does this. I'm closing my eyes. I pretend not to see. I'm going to look over it. And when are those transgressions something that cannot be ignored and something to cause us to stop supporting the story, the media, altogether? That's a question I'm going to continue to ask myself going forward for the rest of my life. Every day till the day I am dead and no longer around. And I think it's also a question that a lot of people will be asking themselves too. So yeah, I suck at ending videos, especially this video. This is my first ever real attempt at more media analysis, media commentary format. I hope it wasn't too dreadful to listen to, especially since I feel like I got pretty rambly. But yeah, if you somehow, got this far in the video, I thank you a lot. If you've seen my other content before this point and you've, enjoyed me branching out of my usual wheelhouse for this video, or your first time here and or if you just like the video in general, feel free to comment, subscribe. It does help. It really does. If this video does go over well, I might do more content like this in the future, but hopefully on topics that are way more lighthearted and not as serious. I have this idea for this video talking about different short form cartoon adaptations of Beauty and the Beast that I think would be real fun to make. So until next time, stay safe and be kind to one another. Bye-bye.